Check, check. What's going on, y'all? So really quick, we're doing things a little bit different today. I just want to make sure the audio and everything is good on my end. Whoops. And make sure that there's no buffering and that you guys hear me and see me clearly. Hold on one second here. While that's going to, I'm also live on Instagram. So I'm live on Instagram and YouTube, and we just want to make sure things aren't buffering. How's it going, IG? How's it going? So I'm putting the number in here. 3. So that way, if people on IG want to call into the show, you can call into the show as well. But we're just checking the stream, make sure everything's going good, and then we're going to start the intro in a second here. Today, we're talking about love language. We're getting into the love language, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. Oh, we getting to the bottom. So you want to make sure you tune in, and you want to tell your peoples to tune in as well, because we getting into it. So you can call in IG 888-775-3773. You can call in from anywhere, right? And YouTube chat, you guys already know the deal. You can call in as well. So we are about to get into it shortly. How's it looking over there? So far, so good. So far, excellent connection. It said an excellent connection, but it clicked back to no data for a second. No, we're good. Okay. I think that so far so good. We're gonna get right into the intro, and then we'll get started with the show. Here we go. What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Joel Friday TV podcast. I am Joel Friday. Bienvenido. Welcome to the show. Amazing stuff. It is Tuesday. That means we're live on YouTube and on Instagram. Amazing stuff. Really quick, before we get started, hit that like button, smack it. Lay the smack down on the like, subscribe, and share button. Tell your peoples about the show so we can get the subscribers up and the message out. Do it now. As I make these announcements and get these announcements out the way. Topics to be covered. Interesting stuff. So last week, or not last week, I'm so used to saying last week, but yesterday, what did we talk about? We talked about, let me just make sure everything's good over here. Yesterday, we talked about chasing women, right? I had a show planned, but it just didn't work out that way. We ended up just going based off of what the callers wanted to talk about. And yesterday we talked about why we shouldn't chase anybody. Nobody should chase anybody. You know what I mean? Men should not chase women. If you chase a woman, you're going to end up right in hell. Reason why is because you're supposed to let the natural process happen. Let it happen. Let it be added on to you. Let life just be what it needs to be and let go. That's the best way to go about all things. So that way, when it comes to you, the opportunity comes to you, till death do you part. You don't want to rush things because you'll rush to get right into a toxic situation. And we don't want that, right? So we talked about that. The last 2 episodes, actually, we got into that. Today, by request, we are talking about love language. What is your love language? I'm going to tell you mine. I may lose some of my viewers based off of this topic today. I think all my male viewers is about to log out. But if they're smart, they're going to stay in and maybe get some insightful information that they could probably use and maybe get them a real wife. So you want to make sure you stay. Come on, at least hear me out. You know what I mean? So we're going to get into love language. It is a talk show, so you can call in at any point, 888-775-3773, and we could talk about the topics at hand or previous shows, whatever you want to talk about. And if it's a good conversation, it may end up derailing the topic at hand, which, I mean, not today. We're getting the love language, but the point is you can call in and we can talk, and we just go with the flow of the show, okay? If you can't call in, but you still have a question or comment and just want to support the show, you can super chat by clicking the super chat button in the chat box there, or go directly to buymeacoffee.com/JoelFridayTV. The link is in the description, and there you can support the show and send your question or comment, right? On Buy Me a Coffee, they do take a less percentage, so there's more of a percentage of the donation that goes to the show opposed to going to the platform. So Buy Me a Coffee does take less of a percentage, but I'm grateful to YouTube for allowing me to even receive donations and even be on the platform. So whatever is convenient for you, I'm all for it. And I appreciate the support and your question and comments thus far. And I will read those live on the air. Amazing stuff. Let me just type a note real quick. Yeah, love language, right? Because this is a topic that I definitely, this is something that is pushed a lot right now. And I think that there's some truth in what's being talked about when it comes to this topic, right? But I think that things get a little bit distorted as soon as it reaches the mainstream media, right? And what I mean by mainstream media is like, not mainstream media, but when it reaches the surface, right? When it becomes popular in society, I think it becomes a little bit distorted on the way. There's a lot of truth in these things, but I want to break it down some more. So when do we hear about love language? What are the things that people like therapists and all these different psychologists, these different experts have done studies on these things. And I necessarily don't even agree with studies all the time, because that necessarily doesn't always even define the truth about things. You know what I mean? So I'm not just a believer in just trust the experts, because sometimes the experts don't know what they're talking about. They have it up here, but they don't have it in here. You know what I mean? So you don't want to just believe the experts, right? So what I want to do is kind of break down what I believe the root of these things really mean, aside from the studies and the science and all these things that are put into these things. But love language, what is that? Well, they break it up into 5 languages, I guess. And one of them, the first one, is words of affirmation. I should have had the picture to go with it, but that's okay, next time. Words of affirmation. Number 2 is, so words of affirmation is like compliments, right? So letting the person know that you mean a lot to them, they're special to you, or stuff like that, right? Like compliments. That's words of affirmation. That's one love language. Another love language is quality time. So some people like to spend quality time with their significant other, and that time means a lot to them. It makes them feel good. So that's one of their love languages, quality time. A third one is acts of service. And I think this one is more so doing something nice for somebody. So say if your significant other is sick and you go take care of them, that means a lot to them and they appreciate that, because for whatever reason, they're used to being taken care of or whatever, right? That's their love language. They appreciate that, act of service. The fourth one is gifts. People like to be giving gifts, right? Money or whatever it may be. They love to be showered in gifts. That's what makes them feel good. And then the fifth one and the last one is physical touch, right? Whether it be a hug, whether it be holding their hands, whether it be a kiss, whether it be, intimacy, whatever that may be, some people appreciate that for whatever reason. Not for whatever reason, but for the sake of what they're used to, what they're familiar with. So I understand all these 5 things. I understand them, and I understand why society has pushed it. And what it is to me is just a general idea of what people like and what people are interested in. But it's not the root. It's not the root of what love language really is. Like I said, these are just generalizations to help you categorize your situation so you can try to be better, right? But it's not really solving the problem. You know what I mean? It's not really understanding, getting to love, what love actually is, right? And it's trying to, that's what this graph of these different things, it's trying to help you get there, but it's not really getting to the root. And I want to get to the root. So scratch all this love language thing. Everything you learned about physical touch, gifts, acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, scratch all that. Throw it away, right? Because you want to get to the real deal. And if the Lord is willing, we're going to get to the real deal. So from my experience and what I've learned, and I'm still learning, so I can always be wrong, or I may not have everything, all the details correct, but this is just what I see and what I believe, is that from my experience, when you get with somebody or you're in a relationship with somebody, it could be anything, right? It could be friendships, it could be family, whatever, but let's talk about relationships, boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, is that there is a beauty about truly discovering who that person is, getting to know them, right? And these 5 love languages get rid of that. You know what I mean? Because there's a beauty of actually, from a blank canvas, getting to know somebody and discovering certain things about them that help the relationship grow. And that's what always has been the case to the end of time, from the beginning of time to the end of time, is you just discover these things. And as you discover these things, it gave you more insight to how to properly approach the relationship, how to learn how to deal with the person. And it becomes fun when you are getting to know somebody, and then you have those moments of where maybe you guys argue or you guys disagree, right? Or something is like off and you're trying to figure out what is going on. I don't understand. Why did he or she say that, right? When it becomes fun when you reflect on the situation, at least for me, just for me, you reflect on the situation and you try to break it down. You try to understand what's going on. Like, why do they feel that way? Or why do they think this? And you start to like break down what's going on. And as you're doing that, then you start to understand more, like, oh, I see, it's because of this. Oh, she was acting, I said this, and that was so it triggered this, and blah, 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 blah. A lot of people, especially men, would say, you shouldn't think that much into the situation. You shouldn't be trying to figure these things out. I disagree. Because I think that it's most beneficial, especially if you're interested in somebody, it's most beneficial if you take the time to properly understand what's going on, your situation, the dynamic. How are we going to move forward in this and actually solve these problems? I think a lot of issues that come in relationships come from not trying to solve the problem, sweeping the problem underneath the rug. But I enjoy solving the problem, getting to the bottom of it. I like knowing. I like being in the knowing of things. And yes, it can be bad if you get stressed out and you're overwhelming yourself with trying to figure things out. No, it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't overdo anything, right? But you should be putting a certain amount of work in naturally, without force, but naturally, to understand that person, right? And as you're understanding them, then you start to understand where they come from, what their interests are, the things that they do, the why they act the way they act. And from there is where you discover the love language that they're used to, right? But in the proper way. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I hope I'm making sense right now. My love language is English, says Jose. But I'm going to give you a couple of examples, okay? And you guys can tell me what you think. I just want to get the message clear and out the way, and then we'll take some calls, and I'll talk to you guys in the chat here, maybe get to some super chats and go from there. But I'm going to give you guys 2 examples. So I was dating a girl, right? I was dating a girl. And I was just being myself. She was being herself. And as I was being myself, I was joking around. I was joking around a lot. And I like to joke around with people. I just enjoy making jokes, right? And I never realize if it's too far or not. I don't think sometimes I don't have the filter of understanding what is what's too far and what's not, what's insensitive and what's not. Cause I'm in my mind, I'm like, it's a joke, right? Whether there's truth in it or not, I'm just joking and having fun. But when I was joking with her, I was joking in the way of being flirtatious, right? It was just in school, in grade school when you're younger, how you would hit the girl a little bit and that was your way of flirting, right? You were kind of mean to her a little bit and that was the flirtatious way you went about it. That's how I was going about it with this girl. And it was just innocent and fun to me. But at one point, she took it, what I said, personal. And it bothered her. And I was like, that's interesting. And she was like, you just joke around too much. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that it was a problem. Right? Because I'm having fun. And I'm thinking she's having fun. But at one certain thing I said, it bothered her. So then I thought about it. I'm like, dang, I don't understand. Why does that bother her? Why is she affected by that when I'm joking? Is that she didn't understand the language that I was sending off to her. She wasn't thinking it from the perspective of he likes me. This is why he's joking around with me. She was thinking more of I don't like what he said, that bothered me, right? She was taking it personal. But if she understood my language in this situation, then she would have realized that it's not real. It wasn't intentional. I wasn't meaning any harm. That's just the way that I flirt, right? But she didn't see it that way. So that's one example of understanding the other person. And it's not so much about these 5 categories of love language, but it's so much more about that's the language that I know how to be fun and flirty with the person I'm dating, right? So that's the language that has to be understood by somebody else. And same thing when it comes to her, right? I also had to understand that she doesn't like that all the way, right? Because she used to joke around too, right? She jokes around too. But I had to understand that she also doesn't like too much of it. And that's part of her language, right? She may not come from that. So now you start to understand, and then you start to reflect on the situation, and you just try to, and it's not about 5 categories. It's about just getting to know the person and discovering the things, that the do's and don'ts and all these things. And at that point, it's not like you need to be walking on eggshells, right? Because if you're walking on eggshells, you guys probably just aren't meant to be together. But the point is respect at the same time. So I'm not going to be like, well, you just don't understand me. Bye. No, right? I'm not just going to leave because she just can't accept me. I'm going to also be respectful to her, right? And realize like, okay, if I joke too much, that bothers her, and have the respect, right? And I think there comes a level of respect that needs to be there while understanding the person, instead of just saying, well, she just doesn't understand me and I can't be myself, I'm going to leave. You know what I mean? So I think there's a fine line from just learning each other and working with each other in that way, especially if you're interested and you want to see where it goes. My second example, we got some callers calling in. Interesting. My second example is one of my students that I teach. I teach young kids. One of my students had a young female, and she was a young black girl, and she came from a black home, black family, and she was always very like rude, right? And she would say certain things, but every time she would speak, it would just have this like rude tone, right? And typically a lot of black people have that tone, right? That rude tone. And to me, I was always thinking like, this little girl got an attitude. I always think she'll have an attitude. And I would always like correct it. Not always, right? But I would correct it. And she wouldn't change it. And I'm like, she just has an attitude. But after a while, I realized that 99% of the time she didn't have an attitude. That's just the only way she knows how to speak. She don't know how to speak any other way because her mom has that same demeanor. Her family has that same demeanor. So she doesn't know how to conduct herself in a certain way to make it proper in public, right? But I didn't understand that. I didn't take the time to understand that. So that's just her language. That's her language. And within her heart, at times, 99% of the time, she probably meant totally well. But to me, I'm thinking like, wow, she got a little attitude problem. And sometimes she did, but it's not the point. So that's what love language is, in my opinion. I'm going to make my point about what the ultimate way to go about love language is. And to simplify it, to make it way simpler than these 5 vague generalizations of what love language is. I'm going to end it off with that, but I want to take a break from talking and get to some calls, because I think we got some interesting callers. How you doing, chat? Am I making sense? And Zorok90 says, just be patient with these girls. That's it right there, too. That's it right there, too. Being patient. And if anything that teaching young kids has taught me, is patience. Man. But let me get to some calls, and then I'm going to finish that message. And I think I have another example, personal example, and I know you guys love to hear them personal examples. Nosy. Just kidding. Let me go to Kaya out of North Carolina. Kaya, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, Joel. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
All is well, thank you.
Right on.
So the love languages.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 5 love languages that people in these, I don't know, attributes, I don't know what to call them. This is what makes them feel loved, correct?
The 5 things that I spouted off in the beginning about how the world
Well,
views
I missed the beginning, but I'm talking about love languages. Like there was an author who wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
There's been all kind of seminars. Yeah, like there's affirmation, acts of kindness.
Exactly.
Quality time.
I broke all those down in the beginning of the show, so I just went over those 5. Yeah, and I mentioned just really quick, just so you have context. I mentioned that those are just generalizations, but they don't go to the root of what the love language actually really is. But go ahead.
Okay, so would the root of a love language or what makes a person feel loved, isn't that going to stem from everything ego and emotion? Isn't that where it all comes from?
Not exactly.
No?
Well, what do you think? Tell me what you think, and I'll tell you what I think.
Well, the reason I draw that conclusion is because I've heard of this stuff for a long time. Mm-hmm. Even there's even been things when I was in church where they would tie it into marriage classes. Yeah. And they would basically tell you to figure out or to be aware of what the love language of your spouse is, your children, blah, blah, blah. And the purpose of that is so that you can cultivate a feeling in that person. Yes. So you can give them something to show them, yes, I do love you.
Yes.
And so my question comes from, isn't that all ego and emotion?
Yes. So
right. So go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your point.
No, you go.
I was going to say that, those generalizations, those 5 generalizations, that's why I said in the beginning to scratch that stuff, because it's not at the root of what people really need. So like the quality time, all that's going to do is make you feel better. The words of affirmation, all that's do is just going to feed your ego. The gifts feed your ego. All those things feed your ego. Mm-hmm. But they don't actually get to the root. The root is understanding. And what the world does is they give these 5 things, like you're saying, these books of like these 5 things, but that's not giving a person an understanding of the person they're with, their husband or wife, right? That's just making them feel. Go ahead.
Well, I get all that, and I agree with that, but I don't really agree with the way that you're turning it into this other thing, like understand the person, because that implies that we have all these different realms to be understood. That's not even really true. Like the example with your girlfriend, your past relationship, where the girl's like, oh, he plays too much, and she's getting offended, and you're taking it like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't play so much. But the truth is, maybe she should look at herself to see why she's so offended by this man that she knows loves her, or she's following or whatever. That's something within self. It's not really this whole, well, that's just how I grew up, and that's still believing that those things can't be overcome. And I don't really think it's just even that complicated.
Well, it's both.
No, go ahead.
Let me chime in really quick. Good point that you're making, but it's both, though. It's both. It's that the person should learn how, in my opinion, the person should learn how to not take it offensively, and the person should not let that be indicative of who that person is, right? But at the same time, considering what people have been through, considering that some people are just sensitive as they're overcoming their sensitivities. So you still want to be respectful to their situation, right? You don't want to just be like, well, you need to overcome this, so I'm just going to say what I want, even though I know you don't like it. You just need to overcome. Like, that's true. That's true. They do need to overcome, but then there's still also like, okay, well, I can still be respectful and understanding that, what I said.
And what do you mean by when you say be respectful? Does that mean change the truth because this person isn't at a place where they can accept it? What does being respectful look like?
Good point. I think that great point, actually, Kaya. I think that in when it comes to speaking the truth, let's say, for example, speaking the truth, let's just say you realize something that is true and you see an opportunity, the right opportunity to tell this person about it, and you tell them and they get offended by it. Offense sometimes is good. Right? Sometimes it's good to shake them up and you say it, especially if you see to say it, and you let that be and let them deal with it how they deal with it. My example, though, is if I'm joking around, let's just say I joke around too much and say something that they didn't like or whatever the case is, then I can like, okay, choose the battle. I don't have to hold on to being funny offensively just because she needs to overcome being offended, if that makes sense.
It does, and that's why I'm wondering, like, it sounds so complicated to me to have to even put it in that manner. Like, if me and you are friends,
right,
and like me, I have a big forehead, right? And if you're constantly ragging on me, like, man, Kaya, it's a chrome dome, da 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 da, and one day I'm just not in the mood,
right?
And now I tell you, hey, Joelle, sometimes you play too much, and you really cut me deep with that last joke. It reminded me of my childhood, and now I'm on a tangent, right? My trauma's coming up.
Yeah,
that's really not on you being funny because you're my friend, and I know you're funny, and I know I have a big forehead. What's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? So it's
not,
like,
but see, that's a perfect example. Is that realistically, if I say that to you and it bothered you every time I say it, right? Yeah, Kaya should work on overcoming being offended by that because it's a silly thing, right? But at the same time, doesn't mean that Kaya's gonna wake up in the morning and she's no longer offended, but yet Joelle can say. But
what kind of friend is Kaya if the whole time she took on a friend who secretly she's been offended every time he made this joke? So that means one day she's gonna blow up and be like, "Oh, I'm questioning this whole friendship because you're really too funny all the time."
Well, not every time. Well,
just,
not every. I don't want to. I'm not saying every single time. I'm not saying like the guy shouldn't have to completely change. The friend shouldn't have to completely change who he is in order to fit in the name of respect. No, there's a point where like, okay, I gotta walk away from the situation because I really just can't be myself. I'm just saying, like, okay, if Kaya had a problem with the forehead thing, and she knows that she should not be sensitive, but I'm just gonna, watch my tongue about that certain situation because it might bother her. It's just a respect thing because it's not like you're gonna tomorrow overcome this whatever sensitivity about your thing, the forehead thing. So as a good friend, in my opinion,
I don't mean to be combative. I don't agree
it's
with
great.
That, but maybe I just have to see it because it just seems like somewhere it's going to take for one person. You call it respect, but it almost seems like you have to be fake in a way, and I don't mean fake like a fraud. I don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
But when you get into having to filter yourself. I guess it just depends on the relationship and the situation. Okay, and I'm also a woman, and so I take things.
I'll give you.
I don't know. I'm just looking at it like if I'm in a relationship and I guess I could see it that way, but I don't know. Something about it is not clear to me. So I just wanted to chime in and disagree. But
no, I appreciate it.
Maybe I just don't see it.
No, I appreciate it. And like I said, it's a conversation, and I love the fact that you disagree because it makes me think as well. And I could be wrong as well. But let me make this while I have you on the phone, and then I got to move on to some other callers. But let me make this last point is I'll give you an example, and you can let me know what you think. There was a time where a friend of mine who was a female would say like she grew up a certain way. For example, she grew up a certain way to where like cuss, like, with her friends and stuff, her other girlfriends, they would cuss and say all these things. They would cuss at each other and use these words to each other, right? And I didn't come from that type of stuff. So to me, I didn't like it. So one time she had said something to me, and she referred to me using a cuss word. So I'm trying to give the best example as possible.
I'm tracking.
Yeah, you know what I mean? She referred to me, but she used it like in a cuss word. And to me, and I think in general, but to me, it's not that I took it personal, my feelings were hurt. It was just like, I don't want to be addressed that way. It felt disrespectful to me. But to her and her friends, they call each other that name all the time, and they use that cuss word to each other, and they don't take anything by it. They think it's fine. But to me, I just see it as it's disrespectful. Like, I wouldn't go around and say that in front of nobody's parents, in front of nobody's family, and use it that way. And it's like a level of respect to me. So,
well, I agree with that, because that's a matter of right and wrong. If people are calling you other than your name and it's derogatory, it's right to correct them. It's not really about, oh, I need to be understanding because they're hood and they grew up like that. It's right to tell them, I'm a man, don't call me whatever word that we're not going to say that you're using.
Right.
But so I get that, but in that example, you would need to do that as a man, and not hold back and be understanding, as you're calling it.
But I think it's just a sign. It's just respect, though. I shouldn't be called that, because to me, that's disrespectful. But I also shouldn't be like, oh, this person's a bad person. No, that's what she grew up thinking it was okay. You know what I mean? And
I agree. There's no reason to judge, but definitely correct. I totally agree with that.
Those are the examples that I mean within the person you're dating in the relationship, is that those certain boundaries you have to understand, but also correct when they need to be, just based off of respect. Like, if I'm laughing, if I'm joking around with her too much, using the same exact example, if I'm joking around and she feels this certain joke is too far, then out of respect, just out of the B word or whatever the word that's being used, out of respect in the same way, she can just be like, hey, I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. And then you just take it in as that. So I think it's just respect for me. If that makes sense.
Yeah, not yet, but that's okay.
Fair enough, Kaya. I appreciate you calling in. And great points.
I appreciate you taking it. Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, man. Oh, not
Bye.
man, but
that's okay. Bye.
Sorry, Kaya. Woman. I'm so used to saying man because I usually get male callers, and I'm like, bye, man. See you later, man. But I respect Kaya for calling in and being honest about her perspective and standing on it. I love conversations like that, because you're able to, give your opinion, and they can receive it and swing back a little bit. Like, it's just nice conversation. So I respect conversations like that. What do I do? I know the chat's probably cooking me right now. Joel, what you talking about? You sound crazy. Beta. But that's okay. Communication. Somebody on Instagram says communication. No B for real says we understand. Does that need to be? And Instagram, if you guys want to call in and make your points more clear here, you can do that. 888-775-3773. That's what I'm saying. Perfect example. But the other person would also have empathy. I don't know if you're no B for real. Are you agreeing with Kaya or are you agreeing with me about the subject? I can't tell. Anyway, let me get to one more call, and then I'm bring the message home if the Lord is willing. Let me go to Gray out of Los Angeles. Gray, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Joe? How you doing?
How's it going, man?
Chilling. So, love language, and I was thinking about it while I was on hold, and basically, to me, love language is when a girl tells you she has a love language, she's telling you she has trauma. And she's saying, hey, this is how I need to be loved, because everyone who's come before you has done it the wrong way. So if you move a certain way and it's the wrong way, you're going to remind me of my exes. So you need to do it like this. That's my love language. What do you think about that?
I agree I agree in general, because that's true. That definitely is what happens. And I guess that people can say that I'm complicating things by adding like a caveat to that.
Yeah.
But it's like, yes, that's true. It's like there's certain things that people have been through that they shy away from. And if you remind them of that, they don't want that. They want the thing that makes them feel good, which is true.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be the case. But I think in that situation, that person needs to work on overcoming those issues and not wanting people to cater to them, but overcome them. But in the process of overcoming those issues, I think that it's okay for a friend or another person to be aware of that and understand that, and just be able to know when and when not to say certain things. I'm not saying don't speak the truth and don't give it when it needs to be given and make it soft. I'm not saying that, but just at times knowing when to choose those battles and not step where you don't need to if you don't have to, if that makes sense, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I agree. And I also agree with, you're right, you have to have understanding. You just can't say because this person is a certain way that, okay, I'm going to just move on my own business, you know?
Say that last part again, sorry.
Hold on, give me 1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what I said is I agree with you, too, that, you know, just because, I'll give you a quick example of what you were trying to say, because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I was on a date, and, you know, this is the first day we were ever on. We were going to go eat. I think it was Thai barbecue or something. And I was just, you know, we were kind of like flirting back and forth. And then I tell her, you know, it's like, maybe one day you could come over and, you know, you cook for me. And she got triggered. And she's like, well, you want me to cook for you? I was like, yeah. And she goes like, no. And it's like, no, I would never do that. I'll never cook for a guy. I was like, what? And she's like, I'm like, why? And she was like, I was like, no, I don't do that. And it's like, because when I grew up, I cooked for my dad, and because she didn't grow up with her dad, but she said when she would go over, like she would cook for him, and that he was ungrateful for it.
Yeah.
And then I was understanding, and I told her, hey, well, guess what? I grew up, and when I hear about someone cooking for me, it reminds me of, you know, growing up with a single mom who cooked for me, and that was something. If I dare say, that was my love language. You know,
right.
You know,
you understood that.
What her trauma was, her trauma was like, in other words, what I thought was a good thing to do. But I was understanding when she brought up the fact that her dad had treated her a certain way. And I told her, I was like, no, and I was telling her, this has nothing to do with a girl cooking in a kitchen. I was like, I will cook for you and not think anything of it.
Right.
So, you know, I understand that you have to be understanding, you know?
Yeah, no, and that's the whole point, though, too, is that, like, it's okay to be understanding. And I think that men a lot of times think that they shouldn't. And not think that they shouldn't, right? But just think that, like, you have to be this way or you have to be strong. And if she just don't get it, she don't get it. And to a degree, I understand that, but it's God's love also is, as a matter of fact, a part of God's love is not just speaking the truth, but understanding. And because God understands, he knows when to speak the truth. He knows when to do certain things according to what is the proper thing for us. So I agree. Just that understanding doesn't mean that she's just feminist, that girl you're talking about. Doesn't mean she's just feminist because she doesn't want to cook. It's that there's some context there. There's these false ties there that may need to be unraveled a little bit. But I think it's respectable that you just took the time to understand. Doesn't mean you got to be with her, but the fact that you took the time to understand that. I agree.
No, completely. I understood where she was coming from, and I could tell, like, we would go play pool, same girl, and I'll be, kicking her ass, and she'll be like, she'll be getting mad, and I could tell it's just like, I hate losing to guys, and I could see it was something there, but I just kind of put it to the side. I was like, I understand this. It's not a big deal to me, like.
Right. And then there's
I also, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say really quick, because I gotta keep I'm running out of time here, so I gotta keep it moving here. But I want to say too is that you'll also get to a point where you start to realize that, okay, well, if now I'm doing too much, and if you feel like you're doing too much to try to like work with the person and be under, then naturally you'll know like, okay, well, this is not gonna work. You know what I mean? It's like we don't take things too far, but we still know what is important. So thank you, Gray, for calling me. Call me again. And you always have some good input. So thank you, man.
For sure, bro. Keep it up, bro. Good work.
All right. Thank you. Nina. I got to take Nina because it's a female and I want to get a female's perspective and see what she thinks in all honesty. So I got to take Nina and then we'll go from there. Nina, I don't have too much long here, but you're on the show. You're on the air. Welcome to the show.
What's up? So,
how's it going?
I completely disagree with the
Right on.
the last caller who said I think it has, love language is trauma. And I think everybody has preferences. Like some people like savory, some people like sweet. Now, if you, let's say we were dating, if you were to buy me gifts every week and you're like, man, Nina's just not responding. I get her gifts and I feel proud because I love it when she gives me gifts, but I'm not responding in a way. It's because it's not my love language. Maybe I like quality time. It's not the monetary things that makes me feel like you care about me. It's the time that you set aside to show me that you care about me. I don't think love languages has anything to do with trauma. I think it's just people's preferences and how they feel loved. I'm also an outdoor person. I don't want to spend a day inside in the house, cuddled up. Does it have to do with my love languages? Probably not, but I do. Yeah. Everybody has preferences. And I think when it comes to love and how you feel love, it's a certain kind of communication. So I think that it's important. And the biggest thing that I would like to say is that you have to know yourself before you ask somebody else to get to know you. So if you don't know your own love language, if you think like, oh, I love it when he buys me flowers, but that's not true. You just like flowers. You could buy yourself flowers, but that's not true to like, oh, when I'm down, if he buys me flowers, it doesn't really pick me up. Then that might not be your love language. You just might be caught up in popular culture and, what men and women gender roles are supposed to kind of happen. I think it's very important for couples before you jump into dating is to figure out what you really like, what makes you smile. And I think that's what love languages is about, knowing yourself and knowing what things are your preferences. And it could be quality time. Like,
well, let me get to it. I got to cut you off there.
Go for it.
Because of time here. But, well, one thing I don't want to get confused is I totally understand what you're saying, but I think one thing I don't want to get confused is interest versus actual love, right? Because I don't think that getting gifts or receiving flowers or quality time, those are things that we may like or that we're interested in, but I don't think that those are acts of love. You know what I mean? I think that also you said that the way we feel love, I think that is the biggest trick that is set up for people is that wanting to feel something, right? And I don't think that quality time and those things are wrong. Getting gifts and stuff here and there is wrong, but it shouldn't be identified as love, or it shouldn't even be important. I think real love is doing right by the person, and real love is being right. And it doesn't always come it never comes in the form of things, right? But if you like certain things like quality time or gifts, then cool. But I don't think that we should base our lives around that. We should actually focus on not allowing those things to be too important, because then you will get caught up in that if those things aren't given to you as you see you want them. Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, true. I still disagree because let's say so personally one of my love languages is quality time.
Okay.
So if my husband is busy, I am married. I've been married for 8 years.
Yeah.
If my husband is busy and he buys me flowers, that's thoughtless. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do anything to buy. Anybody off the street can buy me flowers. You know what I'm saying?
But why do you think that? Why do you think that you need to be bought flowers? Would you not think that your husband? But would you not think that your husband appreciates you just as much, even if he doesn't buy you flowers?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think you misunderstood. One of his love languages is gifts. So he oftentimes gives me gifts because that's his love language. He loves it when I buy him gifts. But for me, it makes me feel special when you set aside time to spend with me. That makes me feel like I'm a priority. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think for different people, it's not necessarily the monetary. It's just, hey, you know me as a person.
Yeah.
You know what I like. And because you know what I like, you do things specifically geared to me and what I like. And that shows me that you love me. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I do. I totally understand what you're saying. But I also want to tie to that is that it shouldn't ever be a need, though. It should never be a need. Because if it's a need and when the need is not met, then it feels like it's not love. And that's not the case. Like, it's nice to get those things. And it's nice, like, oh, okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. But it shouldn't be like engraved in you as a belief that, oh, I love these things. I need these things, or these things make me feel good. We shouldn't have that standard because it's not grounded in anything. It's just grounded in feelings. And like I said, I'm not disagreeing that it's not okay, that you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but we shouldn't define worth or love based off of those things. But I do have to move. I hate to cut you off because I know we were just getting into it, but I got to end.
Yeah, great. This is the first time I've tuned in, so great. Keep doing what you're doing. You're sparking and invoking good thought and conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. I appreciate it. Call me again. Right on. But she seemed nice, and I wanted to get into it a little bit more about it, but I just out of time here. But let me just say this, and I got to end. Sorry, callers, I got to end the show, but that I think that, let me just get to this last part, is that at the end of the day, everybody is just seeking love, real love, but not everybody knows what that means, right? So because we don't know, we look for all these other things that we think is love, right? Gifts, hugs, all that stuff. And it's not like those things are nice, but that's not love, right? And we all want love. And there's two ways that God has set it up. God has set it up in a way for not even two ways. It's just doing right, in my opinion, doing right by people at all moment. And if you focus on yourself and you get to know yourself and you really are like discovering the truth within you, right? Then you start to realize that all these things don't even matter, right? What matters is doing what's in front of you to do. What matters is learning how to overcome taking things personal. What matters is having understanding in your heart, right? And you gain understanding by getting to know yourself. And when you know yourself, and as you learn yourself, you learn what people like and dislike. And then you learn how to deal with it there. But all people just want love, right? But true love, God's love, that has no emotion, that has no feelings, and it's just a light. You do things based off of what you see to do. So if you see, for whatever reason, to get a gift here, then cool. That person will appreciate it. But everybody shouldn't expect these things because that's my love language. No. Right? You should be able to see that your husband's a good husband. And I'm not speaking to Nina specifically. I'm just saying in general. You should see that your husband's a good husband. You should see that your wife is a good wife. And that's it. And that love, seeing that and knowing that should be enough. And when each person knows that, you guys both know that, naturally you'll do the icing on the cake stuff. Right? But the foundation and the root of love is the light, understanding, insight. And that can only come from God. I got to end. I had to make that last point. Sorry, Nick. Because Nick is coming in. American Anchor Baby is coming in right now. I got to end the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. That was fun. That was a fun way to end the Tuesday. Thank you guys for tuning in. Chat, Instagram. I'm back tomorrow for another episode. We'll see what the topic is. We'll see what happens. Send me some topics in the DM. Send me a message of some topics you want me to cover, and if it makes sense, I'll get to it. I got to go. Follow me across the board, Joel Friday TV. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Until next time, bye. See you tomorrow.